Another victim of ImAllexx. It seems like boys just don't know how to cannot. I don't know, man. It seems like niggas just don't know how to. Sub Jade. Seems like ImAllexx don't know how to stop taking L's. Ever since that first girl came through, which is Alice, came up with her statement. Then there's the second girl, and now there's the third one. Only takes one person to speak up for the wave of them to start for real. Let's get it. Oh shit, I skip ahead. So it's the ImAllexx Situation Part 3. Does it seem like
yes, you read the title.
Does it seem like this is ending?
Yes, you read the title right. There is now a third girl who has come out against ImAllexx. The first one being Alice, which I covered on my channel the other day. The second one being Annie, which I also covered. And now we have the third girl, who is Jess, who includes a long statement about the way that Alex treated her while they dated, including completely dismissive behavior, such as leaving her in the front with an Uber driver who was allegedly doing things to himself, and Alex dismissed it, on top of her attaching text messages where Alex...
You actually kind of make a point. That's why I question the legitimacy of people who don't speak up until years later. Because why wait until the person is more popular and or dead? That's facts. That right there is facts. Literally, like that same shit happened with what's his face? Dream, when he like revealed his face. Everybody was like coming up with like some sort of accusation saying that he's a cupcake dweller, all this, that, and the third. And then there's like the quiet situation. I think that one's a little bit more different. Yeah, it's just crazy. Michael Jackson
threatens her and threatens to end her multiple times for no apparent reason, and a lot more allegations as well. She tweeted out, "This is..."
I will kind of give her the benefit of the doubt. She probably forgot about, this whole thing. And I don't know.
My experience with Alex, and attach some notes and the text messages, along with quote tweeting a 4-year-old post that she made when they broke up in 2020, where she anonymously called out ImAllexx many years ago. And just as a reminder, these are all allegations. Besides the text messages I will show, which are pretty terrible, there's not any definitive proof for any of the accusations in this allegation, so just keep that in mind while I read. And please do not harass anyone involved. So let's just start from the top and read the notes attached to her new post. It starts off with her saying, "From November 2018 to February 2020, I was in an on and off relationship."
I don't know, man. No. Some people just operate differently. It happens.
With Alex. As everyone else seems to experience, the first few months up to a year were as you'd expect with a brand new relationship. I can't speak much now, as 4 years later I have suppressed these memories and don't tend to think back on that time.
Oh yeah, see, I just proved my point right there. See?
I had made a statement in 2020 for my own personal closure, and didn't expect it to go anywhere but just exist. I really wanted to reach out to someone, but I knew I didn't have the evidence because I deleted our messages to try and get over the breakup. I've included my original statement alongside a Facebook message between Alex and my friend during an Insomnia event where he thought I wasn't in our hotel room. He left to go see Slazo before the accusations, and I had woken up to banging at the door to said friend showing me this message and saying Alex was looking for me. I was in the bed next to him, he just hadn't bothered to look. When confronted, he laughed about it, and I told him to never say that about me again. While I'm thankful I'm now in a position where my current partner has helped me heal through the damage Alex caused, my heart breaks for Alice, having gone through so much worse and still dealing with the consequences. She deserves nothing but peace and happiness here on out. Nothing she has done will justify his actions towards her. And then she attaches those text messages she mentioned here, where it's Alex DMing someone, and he says, "Yo, where's Jess? For fuck's sake. I'm very angry. At bar. I'm going to kick her head in. Now I'm locked out. Might kill her. Might actually kill her." And this was in April 2019.
Jesus fucking... Yo, this nigga is insane, bro. This nigga is insane. Yeah, Alex is cooked.
Then a few minutes later, he tried to call for 30 seconds, and that's all that we can see in this DM. And she quote tweets her original tweet that she made back in 2020, which she mentioned. And in this tweet, she says, "Trigger warning, mental/emotional abuse and depression/ Now the year is coming to an end. I want to get something off my mind and have at least a little bit of closure. And she attaches, specific names won't be mentioned, but most can assume anyway. Whoever is currently in a relationship where your partner is heavily one-sided, guilt trips you or puts you down,
it could be.
please
I mean,
get
he
out.
said he did
I know
say
it's
he was
hard
at
to
the
think
bar,
of wanting
so
to leave, but I can assure you it's for the best. The start of my last relationship was everything I had wanted at the time. I was already living my best
you know what people say? Drunk actions make sober thoughts.
life, so things
Or
were only
sober thoughts, drunk action. You get what I'm saying.
improving. The guy was super lovely and sweet to me, always cared and went the extra mile, but something changed not long into the relationship. It was like he was keeping things away from me, which obviously you'd tell your partner. I mean, I would have in that situation. There came a time his ex came back into the picture, and like anyone, I felt a horrible gut feeling. When they met up, she ended up going to his flat and went out clubbing with him and some mates, all of which I had to find out through social media. Nothing from him. I'd already made it apparent it made me uncomfortable, them two being together, but his response when I wasn't happy was, I didn't think it was a big deal, and I have to be friends with her for work. Anything I'd say, I was met with an excuse. No, sorry, I'll tell you next time or anything. So I just had to push how I felt aside and watch them on calls every night and talk all the time. Shortly afterwards, he broke up with me as he was planning on moving elsewhere, and he said the last 6 months were the worst of his life and how nothing good has happened. I was devastated and spent countless nights crying myself to sleep because at the time I genuinely loved this guy, and I'd do anything for him, and it hurt a lot that I couldn't make him happy. I made one tweet during this breakup that I saw a good-looking guy in the gym, and he flips out at me saying I'm a liar for telling him I'd wait for him and would only like him, and he doesn't ever want to be with me again. I broke down at work crying on the phone to him, trying to apologize and saying how genuine I was, when I said I'd happily wait for him. All I did was make a tweet about someone being attractive. Eventually he agreed to let me come and see him, and we started back up again as he said he was sorry for getting angry because he just missed. I'm assuming she meant to say.
I don't know, man. Like, I don't know how someone like Alex can pull so much girls when that nigga looks like he hasn't hit puberty since like fucking middle school, man. Like, his teeth doesn't even look fully developed. His face doesn't even... Man, I don't even know, man.
They missed me. He never moved in the end, so I'm glad I had to experience those awful nights, wondering why I wasn't good enough anymore for no reason. One night, he went out and left his laptop with me. I looked through some messages, and he was a lot closer with his ex than he let on. He would tell her his problems, but to me, he didn't want to drag me down or get me involved. He'd also message a girl complimenting her ass, but me tweeting someone was attractive was at the end of the world? I never mentioned this to him because I knew it would just cause an argument. I could never win with him. As time went on, anything that bothered me, I'd tell him, and I'd just be met with a load of messages that started with, I'm too busy, I don't have time for this, I'm not happy, I've got other things to worry about, the list goes on. He would always get angry at me, saying my feelings. Looking at him, he's not a scary person, but behind the scenes, he scared me when he was angry.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. That just means women just don't have any taste. It's all about clout and money.
At this point, my feelings pretty much felt invalid, and I knew I couldn't get to him about anything. I still did try, though. Whenever he'd upset me, I'd tell him, and was met with the same response. Countless times, he'd reverse the situation and play the victim, to which I'd stop being upset and feel sympathy for him. I was always there for him with advice and help, but he was never there for me. One time he told me he was feeling really down, so I drove 3 hours in the middle of the night to see him, yet when I told him I was down, I got met with something like, I'm working. For my 22nd, I spent the majority of my birthday alone watching TWD as he was in bed all day, but I can't be upset at that because his excuse was being depressed. I picked out flowers as a present from him, and he bought me some Jaffa cookies, which I later got told they were meant for both of us. I'm not one to compare gifts as I love to give, but I took this guy to a 5-star hotel for his 21st, and he couldn't even organize something nice for us to do on mine. There's situations where he's been pure evil, telling me he hates my friends. During an argument about how I felt uncomfortable being sat next to a male Uber driver who was touching himself at times and kept staring at me, and my friends were...
Excuse me, what? I felt uncomfortable being sat to a male Uber driver who was touching us. Oh my God. Y'all niggas can just do that in your rooms, man? Y'all couldn't do that in your rooms? Really?
For simply saying they wouldn't let me sit in the front,
In your own
period.
privacy?
He sat in the
Man?
back just so he could talk to his friend, and I just became invisible. That might seem a bit confusing on the wording, but basically she's saying that there was a time where she sat in an Uber The driver was allegedly touching himself, and she communicated with her other friends this situation. They said, well, we would never let you sit in the front. But it seems like Alex was arguing with her over this. And the timeline isn't exactly clear, like if this happened in the Uber itself or just the next day. I'm not exactly sure, but essentially it's just alleging that he was completely dismissive of her being uncomfortable in this situation. He blamed me for not telling him sooner. However, if he had paid attention to me as a person, he would know that I have social anxiety and find confrontation, especially that kind, really difficult to deal with. He told me he hates fat people, then went on to jokingly call me fat when he knew I wasn't happy with my weight. I feel lucky that my depression doesn't get in the way of making others happy. No matter how bad I get, I can always make sure others are okay. Now I know not everyone has that same mindset. He struggled with his own mental health issues. He broke up with me on Valentine's Day this year after I sent him a text saying it doesn't feel like he appreciates me or loves me anymore, and which he blames me for breaking up with him, which I didn't. This year, by the way, being 2020 when she wrote this. He gave me excuses on why he couldn't do this anymore. Again, I'm too busy, I'm working, etc. I even booked time off just to spend time with him, told him the dates, and he never bothered to arrange to see each other. Again, too busy for me. But he told me he wasn't going to go out for drinks with a friend. However, that translates to just going to Asta. I'm not sure what that is, ASDA. So he had a go at me saying I don't allow him to just go shopping with his mate. What triggered the message was him saying he was going out for drinks after saying he has no time for me. The fact I had to see his own friends with their girlfriends and seeing them make time for one another hurt like hell. His excuse for that was they do that because they aren't as passionate about their job as he is, so they waste their time. He never came to see me because that took away too many days where he could have been working instead. This made me feel like I didn't deserve his time or was even worth his time. Going on from Valentine's Day, I was obviously upset it was over, but I was able to manage it pretty easily at first. I'd try and talk to him, but he'd rarely respond. It wasn't until COVID hit that my own mental health crumbled more, and I had to watch people die every day in April. This is when I really needed him to be around.
Jeez.
Not that he ever was anyway. It got to the point where I was sat in my car on the verge of suicide when I needed to speak to someone. I called him, and in the end, he turned his phone off and didn't answer because he couldn't be bothered to talk to me for days after I was having a mental breakdown every day.
Sounds like a great boyfriend. All the women who like to be with him. Bro went to Clover Kingdom.
And I just wanted to talk to him. I still struggle to understand why he broke up with me, as the only thing he changed in his life was getting rid of me. He didn't get rid of anyone else. Apparently, getting rid of me was supposed to make his life better. Yet his friends were the ones who got under his skin, and they're still around to this day. Eventually, he blocked my number. I would see him on social media talking to everyone and anyone. Then she continues saying, an extra for this one, he told me off for telling my friends how he made me feel as they didn't need to know. He doesn't tell his mates, so why should I? Couldn't go to him, not allowed to speak to my friends either. Crying emoji. She continues saying, calling random girls he's never even talked about before. And when I pointed out that he can talk to them but not me, he kicked off saying that's basically me trying to tell him he can't have friends. All I wanted to know was why I wasn't allowed the time of day, but this other new girl was. He'd be more happy to talk to her about her mental state, but not mine. Anything I would bring up after the break, I was yet again met with, I'm depressed, I'm busy, I can do what I want, I don't need this. For someone who would constantly remind me he had depression and use it against me, he never once took my mental state into consideration.
It has that same correlation with the shit Alex been going through. So, yeah, it kind of does sound like ImAllexx. Shit. This nigga is terrible with women. Oh my gosh.
I could have gone to a certain person about this situation, but he threatened me saying if I went to said person, I'd have no chance of ever being with him again. Well, now I don't ever want to be with you anymore. I don't see why people can't now know. The only leverage he had has now gone. This guy made me feel completely worthless, self-conscious, and gave me such a lack of trust in people that it's taken me aback how much of my current partner is understanding and willing to help me overcome my depression. He's literally having to deal with the damage that my ex caused. There's so much to it that I could go on for page after page, but these are the main points that stick out for me right now. No doubt if he catches wind of this, I'll get accused of lying, or he'll just shout at me like he used to. I told him he was mentally abusive, and he said, don't go throwing that around. I'd like to have full closure on our relationship, but I know he will never admit to how selfish and cruel he was, so this is all I can do. I have a lot of friends who have seen texts and heard voice notes from him, and don't worry, they don't like you either, and will back this. Then she continues, I literally can't give Andy enough credit. I tell him something bothers me, he'll work on it / won't do it again. I cried into him one night, and he went back to work 10 minutes late. I had a bad day, he sent me flowers. this guy doesn't feel real, referencing her new boyfriend, I suppose, that was around back in 2020. And so, yeah, as I said at the beginning, obviously these are just allegations. We don't really have much to go off of besides the one text that she showed. And that text is pretty terrible and also very showing of the pattern of behavior that Alex has. It's now 2 girls where we have very clearly seen his threats in text with. One girl, Annie, was just vague about it being toxic, but 2 have now shown proof of him saying deranged and vitriolic things about them while they were dating. And I don't really know how he can come back from this. There's just been so much overwhelming accusations from just multiple girls. I've said in my first video that it's possible that there was some sort of mutual thing going on, but the more that comes out, the less I think it's even a possibility that there's something mutual going on or that something is missing in the allegations. And just to be clear, anytime I've said that is not to defend Alex, it's just to suggest the only way I could possibly see Alex explaining the way that he acted would be for him to claim it was in response to mutual toxicity, which doesn't absolve his actions, but it would just put it under a different lens. But as I was saying, that looks less and less likely with every girl that comes out, because this is just getting ridiculous at this point.
Man, Alex just don't know how to stop taking L's. Shit. I swear, man, this nigga Alex just don't know how to stop taking L's. Shit is crazy, man. Shit is crazy. Shit is insane.